Hello, my name is Richard, and welcome to my dungeon. Today, we're going to go over the Tomb of Horrors module. This module was rated number 3 in 2004's Dungeon Magazine's 30 Greatest Adventures of All Time. The only adventure that was rated higher was, of course, Ravenloft and the mega dungeon Queen of the Spiders. If you're interested in seeing why it is so highly regarded, please come with me.
Dungeon Crawlers Level 1.
If you Google what is the hardest adventure in Dungeons & Dragons, I'm sure Tomb of Horrors will probably show up somewhere in the search. I purchased mine from eBay, and the front cover reads, "In the far reaches of the world, under a lost and lonely hill, lies the sinister Tomb of Horrors. This labyrinth crypt is filled with terrible traps, strange and ferocious monsters, riches and magical treasures, and somewhere within rests the evil Demi Lich." The module also states that this adventure was used in the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons tournament at Origins 1. In 1975, Dungeons & Dragons was getting more popular in wargaming circles, so TSR was chosen to run a Dungeons & Dragons in this convention for 120 players, and each party consisted of 15 members. I remember reading this passage when I was an adolescent, and I was totally blown away. I had no idea there were Dungeons & Dragons tournaments. In my mind, they were something like a March Madness tournament, but just with polyhedral dice. This tournament adventure needed to be played in 2 hours, so the adventure is quite small, but it packs quite a lot of secrets in this small adventure. Gary Gygax asked for sketches to be created of the dungeon rooms. This would help the adventure flow since multiple dungeon masters would be running this adventure concurrently. And he asked for these sketches to be redesigned when the adventure became a full retail adventure. For me, this is one reason why I enjoyed the adventure so much. When you would move into a new area, you would see a nicely detailed picture. And when I played this adventure for the first time, it was in the mid-80s, and that was the NES days. The role-playing games at that time couldn't display this level of detail, so these pictures really brought life to the adventure for me. This illustration packet was quite unique. The only other illustration packet that I knew about at the time was Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, which was a futuristic adventure. Let me know in the comments if I missed a TSR module that had an illustration packet. You might be asking, why is this adventure so highly regarded? The adventure hook merely states that there's riches and magical items. But that was enough for me. They had me at riches. In Dungeons & Dragons, a lich is an undead monster. In life, a lich was a high-level magic user. By using arcane magic, the wizard became an even more powerful undead monster that can still have the ability to cast spells. But this lich is in fact a Demi Lich, which is a new and unknown monster at that time. Challenging does not truly describe this module, but the challenge does not come from fighting monsters. Since there are few, the challenge comes from well-thought-out traps. In fact, most of the rooms have some type of trap. This module states, "This is a thinking person's module, and if your group is a hack and slay gathering, you will be unhappy. If you regularly pose problems to be solved by your brain and not your brawn, your players will find this module immediately to their liking." I am definitely a hack and slash type of adventurer, but the imagination and challenge of this adventure makes it rank high on my list of modules. In the Origins convention, the players were dropped off to the site of the Tomb of Horrors, which was a large hill. If this hill was viewed from above, the whole area would look like a human skull. Since there's not a spell of ground-penetrating radar, players needed to prod the dirt with spears or the infamous 10-foot pole to find the entrance to the tomb. Once the entrance was found, it would require an hour for 6 players working in teams of 3 to clear the passage. This is the first indication that this adventure is going to be a long slog, but finding the entrance is only the first step. There are in fact 2 fake entrances, and since this is the Tomb of Horrors, both are trapped. One of the fake passages has a massive rock lid that will shut and trap the players in the dead-end passage. Only a few spells will allow the party to escape. Let's hope the party has the right spells memorized. Early in the adventure, players run into an archway filled with mist. The stones glow with various colors. Players must touch these stones in the proper sequence for the mist to disappear. But this isn't Resident Evil. In those puzzles, the correct sequence was hidden somewhere in the level. But in the Tomb of Horrors, players must figure this out for themselves. I'm horrible at puzzles. I was a type of player who would buy an action puzzle game at the same time I bought a Prima strategy guide. So, I walked into the archway when it was filled with mist, and this caused me to fail this puzzle. By failing the puzzle, I was transported to the Forsaken Prison, and the description reads, "This miserable cubicle appears, and has absolutely no means of egress, and even by magical means of detection, will not indicate any." Trapped into a miserable cubicle? That seems like places I've worked in the past. Another popular visual is the green devil head door. Below the devil head is a large opening for the mouth, which is completely black. This black opening is actually a sphere of annihilation. In the first Dungeon Master's Guide, it states, "A sphere of annihilation is a globe of absolute blackness, a ball of nothingness. A sphere is actually a hole in the continuity of the multiverse. No matter what comes into contact with the sphere, it is instantaneously sucked into a void, gone, and utterly destroyed." In other words, if you put your hand into the sphere, that's it for the hand, no savings throws. But now you know why OG D&D players like to carry around 10-foot poles. One of the monsters in this adventure is a gargoyle. The gargoyle has 4 arms. It even wears a collar with 10 fine gems. In most adventures, this would be treasure after a hard-fought battle. But in this adventure, it's just a key to the next puzzle. In another room, there is a second gargoyle with 3 outstretched arms and a broken 4th arm on the floor. If the players take a gem, like the one from the collar, and fit it into the gargoyle's hand, then the gargoyle's hand will close and smash the gem to dust. Then you must repeat this and destroy more valuable gems. On the 10th crushed gem, you'll hear a voice that says, "Your sacrifice is not in vain. Look to the 4th to find your gain." An invisible gem will materialize in the palm of the broken arm. But you can use a detect magic spell to see the gem. Once the gem is cleaned, it becomes a gem of seeing. This gem will be a game changer because you can find the massive amounts of hidden things inside this adventure. Towards the later part of the adventure, you run into the crypt of the Demi Lich Acererak. The party must burn their way through a room filled with webs. Then they discover a mace that shines bright with a golden light. Then you see a lich slowly rise from a golden couch. With a booming voice, you hear, "Who dares disturb the rest of Acererak? It is your death which you have found." When the creature is struck by the golden mace, the undead creature will roar out in pain. On the 3rd strike, the monster will wither and die, and the mace will crumble into dust. Then the entire room will start to shake, and the roof will start collapsing. Before it collapses, the party can recover the monster's crown, a fine jade coffer, and some bags of gold and jewels. Not a bad haul. But this is just a fake crypt created by Acererak for parties that have made it this far into the tomb. The lich was just a zombie with the appearance of a lich. The crumbling room was just an illusion. Acererak knows that most parties invading his tomb were looking for treasure, so he left enough treasure to satisfy thirsty parties. If the party runs out of the crumbling tomb, the module instructs dungeon masters to ask the party if the adventure was too hard. If the party chooses to end the adventure without further explanation, that would be it for the adventure. To make the scene more believable, the cover of the module actually shows this battle with the zombie and not the upcoming battle. An astute party will be suspicious and continue adventuring. They'll adventure through many secret passages and they'll come up to a small tomb. only 10 by 20 feet. On close examination, they'll discover a small keyhole. Throughout the adventure, the party could have found 2 small keys. If one key is inserted, the party would be blown upwards and sustain heavy damage. If the other key is inserted, then nothing. But the key must be turned 3 times clockwise, and the true treasure room will rise from the floor. A huge amount of gold and jewels is now available in the grasp of the party. There's also a stockpile of magic items. Lastly, a human skull with 2 fine jewels for eyes. The party can take the gold, jewels, and magic items without any issue, but greedy parties will definitely want the jewels inside the skull as well. Touching the skull will be a horrible mistake. The skull is all that remains of Acererak, so the term Demi Lich is a joke, since a lich now is literally Demi. Acererak will rise up and instantaneously trap the party's strongest member inside the jeweled eye, then it would float down again. If attacked, it will capture the next strongest character. Acererak can do this a total of 8 times. If it reaches the maximum 8 characters, then it would teleport the remaining party 100 to 600 miles away. Acererak, luckily, cannot sustain too much damage. Acererak can only be damaged by specific spells and very rare magic items. When my party fought Acererak, we were fortunate. I was a paladin with a +4 weapon, and we also had a ranger with the Sword of Sharpness. Our magic users cast the wrong spells, so they did no damage, but with a little help from our dungeon master, we were able to be victorious in Dungeon Dragons' hardest adventure. Truly, thank you for watching up till now. If you've gotten this far, how about giving me a like? It would really help the channel. And also let me know in the comments if you played this adventure and how did it go for your party. And you can click over to the next video. And I'll see you on the next dungeon crawl.